Hi, my name is Lauren Johnson. I'm excited to be doing another Kunes car convo where today I will be interviewing Megan Brown Saldana, the Director of Donor Relations for Humility Homes and Services. We will be driving around in this gorgeous blue F-150 Black Ops truck. Let's get going. So, first of all, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, absolute pleasure. And thank you for letting us partner with Humility Homes and Services. Amazing organization. We appreciate and love everything you're doing for the Quad Cities. So we're just so thankful we get to partner with you. You're doing so much. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really partnerships like this that allow us to serve individuals. I think that there can be like some misconceptions about homelessness and what that looks like, and especially some misconceptions perhaps about what Humility Homes and Services does about that. I think that people, when they think about homelessness, they have like a vision in their head of like someone, dirty on the side of the road holding a sign. But truthfully, because in our community we don't have enough affordable housing, individuals who are facing homelessness or housing insecurity are just like me and you.
Right.
I have truly been humbled in my new role to kind of learn about, the real face of homelessness.
Right.
And so we do provide a homeless shelter. We have 80 beds every night. We have a men's floor and a women's floor.
Okay.
But our bread and butter is actually in providing housing.
Okay.
We own 152 properties across the Quad Cities.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's and really it's so interesting. Like just like we're driving around today, is we'll drive through Davenport and it'll be like we own that house and we own that house and we have house people in this house.
Good. Good.
And yeah, it's really exciting. So that's a little bit about what Humility does overall, but we're really appreciative of your support of our holiday giving program.
Yes, please share with us about the holiday giving program so other people could participate as well.
Yeah, so we serve, I think our final number from last year was it was like 1,100 individuals served in our programming across the different areas. So our holiday giving program is something that we run from November through December, and we actually provide gifts to all of the children in our programming. Last year we served, I believe the numbers are 1,100 or so in our programs throughout the year. And so we really try to hit every one of the kiddos and provide a happy holiday to them. For most of them, it is the only experience that they'll have. Some of these situations, they might not have a bed in their home. Like it's the very bare minimum that some of these kids are gonna get. In other circumstances, you have people that have, done all the right things and they have a job, and really it's just like that making it meet. You would hate to have to choose to provide, this very normalized Christmas for your kids, and then not be able to afford to wash your clothes,
right?
January 1st.
Right.
So,
right.
We provide gifts, and this year, especially with your help, we're going to be providing gifts to 163 kiddos.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And we will post pictures of some of the goods that they purchased with the donation from Kunes. So love that. Love that the kids are going to get to have cool bedding, great toys, bracelet making kits.
Yes.
Very important for a childhood.
Yes. And we're like living out our dreams, going through the aisles and being like, and I want this, and I want this, and I would have died for this.
Yes.
Especially, we're calling it the year of the Barbie, right? So
she's back.
She's back.
She is back.
And I love her, and it is, really, really fun to be able to do those things. And also just like normalize something that perhaps a lot of us take for granted.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I would love to hear about the history of your organization.
Yeah. So the Sisters of Humility, started our organization. It was about 35 years ago that they were really upset about housing injustice, and that a lot of the area organizations that were serving the homeless wouldn't serve individuals who didn't fit a certain, look or type. And so you, in other shelters, you have to be sober, you have to be straight, you have to have an ID, you have to have a lot of these things that are barriers to people. And the sisters, way back 35 years ago, not way back, but 35 years ago, they were like, come on, like housing first.
Yeah.
Anybody, everybody deserves that very basic need. Like when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like once we can meet those needs, the stress on the rest of the systems is relieved. And so that's the healthcare system, that's calls for the police, that's ER visits, that's all of these things that go down when you just house a person.
Right.
And so we house people and then we wrap those services around them. So they were upset about the state of it, and they actually chartered a bus and they went to Washington D.C. and they marched with 100,000 people for housing justice. And when they came back, they bought their first building and they put 4 single mothers in apartments, single mothers and their children, and really that's where it all started. We've since grown. We're the housing choice agency in the Quad Cities. 35 years is not a super long time, but in that time, because the sisters had this vision of what equity looked like, us as employees now today are able to really grow upon that initial vision, and that has allowed us to, secure funding from different grants, from different partnerships, to kind of really like see a need, fill a need. So something that is, I always like to tell people is that funding typically has strings attached, and it goes certain places and you got to spend it on certain things. And so sometimes the thing that a person really, really needs won't be covered by those funds. And so when organizations like yours give us kind of like, we're making this investment in you and we trust you to spend it in that way, we're able to, not only buy gifts, but, buy toilet paper. Could you imagine all of the things that you used this morning to get ready, like not having them?
Right.
And so
taking them completely for granted when there's people that would kill for those.
Those unrestricted dollars are, it's like an investment in really those like everyday personal needs. It is right now going to make a difference. I know. And to think, toilet paper, toothpaste.
Right.
You don't even have a washer and dryer. Yes. Hygiene products. They are, we really just forget about the things that are, not even, I wouldn't even consider, feminine products, hygiene products to be a luxury. It's a necessity.
Yes.
And how expensive they are, and especially, say there's more than one person in your family that needs it, if you don't have a place to live, you don't have, the disposable income to get the things that you need.
Right.
And so we take that housing first, and we put people in homes, and then we use partnerships like yours to get them some of those things that offer stability. Because if you don't have the things you need, then you typically have to find those things.
Right.
And if we can eliminate some barriers, then we can ensure successful transition out of our housing into housing.
What do you feel is the root of homelessness, and how do we end it?
Okay. There's probably lots of different opinions and takes on exactly what the root of homelessness is. Here in the Quad Cities, I would say that our biggest impact on homelessness is the affordable housing crisis. So 30% of our Quad citizens, they pay more than 50% of their income for rent or mortgage. And so that's not just a person who perhaps, is renting and they want to live in a really, really nice place, but they don't have a good enough job. Something like that. It's representative of like me and my mortgage payment, and 30% of everybody. That's me, that's you, that's the people we work with.
Right.
Who do have secure housing, safe and secure housing. And so there's really not even our system here does not have enough capacity to house people at a affordable rate. And so that's something that it can be changed. Homelessness can be solved if the solution is in providing housing. And community homes and services actually has above a 50% success rate, where the state of Iowa has like a 20-something% success rate. And it's because, you know, we're flexible. We do some things that are a little bit more progressive, and those are things that come out of the Sisters' original vision. So we don't require you to have an ID to come to our shelter. It's the only shelter in the Quad Cities that does that. And there are reasons for that, absolutely, and there are tons of people that have need, and so we need all of those resources together. We also don't, you know, require people to be sober. We would love for them to be happy and healthy and have all of those things. But we have that vision to kind of have some flexibility in those things. And then also things like, what does a family structure look like? It's not the nuclear family. It's not mom, dad, and children. It is much more nuanced and, you know, just interconnected with people who might not be blood related. And so what do we do to house non-traditional families? You know, we allow for, you know, two people to live together that aren't married. And those are things that, you know, you don't find in other housing programs that tend to be a barrier for someone who then will like repeat and go back into the cycle because the housing that they had didn't meet the needs that they had.
I appreciate your flexibility, and I didn't realize that all shelters, besides you guys, or most shelters I should say, required ID, required people to be sober, and I just can't imagine being in such a terrifying situation and then still having to jump through hoops just to get a safe, warm place. Thank you for.
I've learned a lot.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, so we're a low barrier shelter, and then that also allows us to be like low barrier when it comes to housing and getting individuals in housing. People who are ready for it, we want to provide that. I think that it's also super interesting. You talked about kind of like you asked what causes it and how we solve it. I think that in the United States, we're all just one accident away from losing everything. And I'm going to tell a story because it was one of the first things that happened to me when I started in this role that really was like, homelessness looks like me. It looks like me. There was a participant, somebody from the community, my age, pulled up, had been referred from another agency, needed to take a shower. Hadn't taken a shower in 4 days. And I'm like, okay, wow, I totally forgot that's a thing that is a need. He has a bachelor's degree. He had a 10-year career in a super respected field. Wasn't living in this area. Was going through a divorce. Didn't have, came back to be closer to family. Didn't have the support. And so 2 months later, so many things happened and fell together that he lost everything, and he's living out of his car, and he needed to be able to take a shower. And I stood and had that conversation with this person about like things that I am interested in and things that I learned about in school, and just really this person who was smarter than me, had just so much in him, and it was just a really humbling experience to be like you and me could go and have a beer together. Me and you could have been in a class together like we were and go all this time and be Facebook friends. And it made me just really think about, there are just so many struggles that people have that we don't see, that we don't understand. And to be, everybody's just like one thing away from, you break your leg, you can't go to work for 2 weeks, turns out you have to have surgery, and all of a sudden you're a month behind in pay, and you can't pay your mortgage or your rent. And it's just so much more familiar than perhaps what I thought it was before, what people think of homelessness or housing insecurity as. Like, what's the picture of it? It looks different than I think we're used to seeing.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, and I appreciate you coming here to educate myself and others, because you're right. When people think of homelessness, I don't feel like people probably think it's as prevalent in the Quad Cities. You think of bigger cities like Chicago, or you hear about the homeless crisis in Portland, and you're like, oh, it's not as prevalent here. But like you said, anyone is just one big emergency hospital bill, whatever, away from potentially being homeless. And so,
I get that feedback a lot when we go out and do outreach, where people are like, oh, well, it's not as bad here as it is in these other places. And that has to do a lot with population density. Let's just remember that. But we did our street count, and just the individuals who identify as being homeless or are staying in our shelter, and not any of the people that we're serving, because we've housed them. There's 550 homeless individuals in the Quad Cities every night. And that's just the ones that when we go and we walk some of these different paths, and we can like count a clicker and like really know. That doesn't include children in our school systems that move from place to place to place. It doesn't include, individuals who are typically like sleeping in their cars. It doesn't include, you and your 6 siblings and your aunt and your, uncle who is in a wheelchair, and now you're living in your friend's house all in one bedroom. Sometimes that isn't, viewed as homeless. And so that 551 is really just such a small, it's like a drop in the bucket of the larger problem. And it comes back to, if we just had the capacity of affordable housing for every person that needed it, we would eliminate a lot of those issues.
So what are the gaps, and how is Humility Homes and Services, like, obviously we've talked about so many different initiatives you're doing, but specifically speaking with the gaps, what are you guys doing to kind of counteract that?
One of the gaps, I think, is that the intersectionality of how all of these different barriers impact the homeless or the housing insecure population. So for example, 60% of the population is disabled, and and that's the rate at which they identify. So it could be much higher. And some of the gaps are, certain funding that comes down, it'll pay for like a wheelchair ramp, or maybe it won't, but it won't pay for like a full bar and a shower. It won't pay, the maintenance fees for us to mow the lawn for someone who has mobility issues. And so we take this housing first approach. We put people in housing, but there's all of these other things that go into taking care of people and setting them up right. Think about like mowing your grass. Okay. Have you ever gotten a ticket for having your grass too long?
I am not.
I am not either, because I'm terrified, because I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna come and get me. And and
come and get me.
Think about living somewhere, you've just been housed, you've had this super traumatic experience. You finally have gotten this opportunity, you've got a safe roof over your head, and you don't own a lawnmower, and you don't mow, and then all of a sudden at the end of the summer you've got hundreds of dollars in tickets. And it's just one of those like externalities, these things that we don't quite think about, that perhaps are very normal to us in our everyday lives, that aren't things that just happen once you house someone. And so we have to partner, we have to raise funds, we have to write grants to fill the gaps, to provide, to be accessible, to be safe. We had a huge tragedy in our community, and it really highlighted the issue of unsafe practices for renters.
Yes, it did.
And when we look at housing being unaffordable for 30% of the population, it just is something of how many people are living in situations like that. And one life lost is far too many. However, what would be the number that would change it? Like, how many people have to suffer, have to die? And I'm talking about, unsafe housing. That's, not having working plumbing. That's having electricity that's exposed. We're better than that, I think, in the Quad Cities. And we owe it to the most vulnerable Quad citizens to fill those gaps.
Yes, I agree. And I will say, when that tragedy happened, I was not surprised whatsoever about the Quad Cities community coming together and saying, like, we will not stand for this. This is not right.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite things about this community is I truly feel like in times of tragedy, whether it's a flood or whatever it may be, we come together and we're like, we want to help each other out.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
We really did, and I think there's so many organizations doing great work that also help reduce homelessness in the Quad Cities, and a lot of amazing organizations that we partner with every single day. We're serving the same participants. We have a supervisor at our organization call, a caseworker at another organization, and it's really all about working together and collaborating, and we need the entire community to invest in that same way.
Yeah.
We actually have some upcoming campaigns in the new year, and we've really been talking about how community is us. It's me and my rent and my philanthropy and my time. It's you.
Right.
It's everyone. It's us. And because it is such an impactful and widespread issue, we have to every single one of us has to do our part in ending homelessness, and we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Community is us. Community is us.
Community is us, guys. Let that be your takeaway for today, along with a lot of other lessons we learned today about homelessness. Megan, do you have any events coming up you'd like to share with us?
We do. We have the Holiday Sip and Shop. It's this Saturday from 8 to 12 at our Fresh Start Center.
Cool.
We're celebrating the end of our holiday giving, so it'll be the last day for people to drop off gifts. And we'll be celebrating with organ music from the oldest organ this side of the Mississippi.
What?
Yes. We will be celebrating with like a hot cocoa bar. Santa will be there. Yeah.
The Santa?
The Santa.
Stop.
Word on the street is he's bringing Mrs. Claus. They're coming. We're going to celebrate, and then people will actually just have the opportunity to shop our regularly scheduled second chance sale at the Fresh Start Center, but we sprinkled some Christmas joy on it, just like you have done for the kids in our holiday program.
I love you so much.
It would be extra nice if you then donated to Humility Homes and Services, because every gift, no matter how large or small, helps reduce homelessness and gets a person in a safe and warm and roofed home.
We all deserve that.
We all deserve it.
Remember, guys, we are the
home.
community. We can help. You yourself can make a difference.
Absolutely.
I think we killed this.